Thank you for the invitation to present our use case with browser tricks at this online day at the Web Archiving Conference 2023. My name is Andreas Predikaka and I'm responsible for the Web Archive at the Austrian National Library. For many websites in our daily crawls, the Heritrix crawler is no longer producing a quality that is good enough. Tests with browser tricks showed that this browser-based crawler can improve the quality of these crawls immensely. We would like to show you this with a short example and also would like to present you how we plan to integrate this crawler into our daily workflows. As you may know, the Austrian National Library uses the NetArchive suite for managing domain crawls and selective crawls. Since the beginning of NetArchive suite, this software was bundled with the Heritrix crawler. We started using NetArchive suite in 2008. At that time, Heritrix 1 was in use, and crawling with this version and rendering the results with the Wayback Machine was quite alright. After years, there were already problems with the quality of some very modern pages. A bit improvement came with the change to Heritrix 3, but couldn't help that much with the fast development of the web, especially in the social media area. Then within the NetArchive suite community, there was this attempt to use Umbra to support the crawls with Heritrix. The whole support was built into the NetArchive suite by our Danish colleagues, and it worked much better, but there were problems with scaling and stability, so that this experiment was stopped. The last milestone was the switch to the IIPC branch of Heritrix 3, which was very important, but of course this could not improve the quality of crawling. In 2023, a new strategy period has been started at the Austrian National Library. The main goal for this period for web archiving, among other things, is to increase the quality of our crawls, which can only be reached by using the new generation of browser-based crawlers. Antares Reich, our new crawl engineer who is with us since the beginning of the year, was testing a lot, and very soon he identified browser tricks as the most suitable software for crawling modern websites. He shows us now a short example.
My name is Antares Reich. I will present you now the reasons why we need to adapt our use case. It's more or less the limits of Heritrix and the quality of the crawls we got. In the picture you see an example of an Austrian media. It's diepresse.com, and after the crawl of the landing page, it's the first link I clicked, and it's already not in the scope of the crawl. The reasons therefore are the high use of JavaScript on web pages, which are not handled properly by Heritrix. Then we have the problem that you cannot perform the login methods anymore with Heritrix, because usually the logins are not based on forms anymore. Another reason are the cookie consent boxes. Usually they want to interact with the real world, and when you crawl them, the Wayback Machine wants to get in the real web, which we want to prevent. Another reason are the paywalls, which cannot be bypassed with Heritrix. And in the last but not least, also the issues we got with social media, so we cannot crawl Twitter or Facebook with Heritrix. So that was the reason why we needed to find a new technology, and with the use of browser tricks we can perform crawls which have the quality we needed. So browser tricks is browser based. That means that it's inside of it, it's a browser which is simulating a real user. So the web page which is crawled by browser tricks is more or less the same you see in a browser. So therefore there is the Chrome web browser included. Then you have a puppeteer class for behavior. It can perform clicks and scrolls, but you can also adopt it and edit the behaviors for your needs on these special websites. Another very good point are the profiles. We will have a look on the browser tricks clouds into these profiles. With these profiles you can perform a login or take any other action on a website, and this will be stored and used as starting point of the crawl. Then there are other features like screencasting to watch the crawl. This is the image of Twitter on the right side. You can also make screenshots. We don't use this now. And Browsertrix is configurable via YAML files. There is also the shell with a configurer of a Twitter crawl. So as I mentioned already, there is also the Browsertrix Cloud, which is the management environment for Browsertrix, and we will have a look at this now. Now we switch to the Browsertrix Cloud. Welcome to the local installation. It's not really installation, we are just loading some Kubernetes image called pods. So you need a Kubernetes infrastructure to run the Browsertrix Cloud, and then it's pretty much out of the box. So it's organized by organizations. Our organization is the Austrian National Library. Here it's pretty empty because it's a new installation. So, but we want to show the browser profile, so we click to the button to make a new browser profile. We enter our URL, it's diepresse.com, which is a media page from Austria. We cannot crawl very well with Heritrix. So now Browsertrix is opening the Chrome web browser internally, pointing to the URL we just entered. And the best is that it's saving our interaction. So when we click on I agree and click away the other box, which is coming immediately, it will not be shown in our WAC in the end of the crawling. So now we just need a name and some description. Clicking create profile, it will create our profile. So now there is an edit browser profile button. This means that you can add additional actions on already saved profile. So now we want to use the profile. We go back to workflows, add a new workflow. We take a seeded crawl that the crawler will generate automatically some seeds out of the page. Okay, then we want to include any linked out. Next step, we need more crawler instances. Then here we select our profile. That's pretty much the most important step. We say yes, we run it on scheduler. After save, okay, the text is a newspaper. And the next step, we see our settings. Stay save and run. So now the process is started. First it's going to the seed we have given, and from the landing page Browsertrix will create other pages. So here we can go on watch crawl, and we see already we have 3 instances selected, so we have 6 crawls parallel. So after a few seconds you will see the website will come without the cookie box. After harvesting the landing page, it will generate more seeds and the number here will increase. So I think that's enough from here.
Thank you, Antares. Testing new crawlers is one thing, but integrating a new crawler into existing infrastructure and daily workflows is a different thing. The integration of Umbra a few years ago already showed that such integration needs a lot of work and cannot be done in a few weeks. But in the long term, I think it's necessary that the Netarchive switch should also support Browsertrix. So we needed a different plan to start quickly and designed already a tested proof of concept how we could use Browsertrix in our existing workflows. To illustrate this, I'm showing you our current workflow and which changes are planned to use Browsertrix. For all those who don't know Netarchive Suite, all crawls would be scheduled in Netarchive Suite from so-called harvest definitions. They contain all necessary seeds in form of domain configurations. For each seed, you need to configure the domain and a crawl scope with help of a harvest definition. In our sample, you can see that we have 3 harvest definitions for our political collection, and on the right side you can see the beginning of the list of our 145 selected domains which are included in the harvest definition of our daily political crawl. By scheduling a harvest definition, 1 or more jobs are started depending on the scope of the included domains. For the harvest definition in this example, there were 11 generated jobs, and for each a Heritrix instance was started. When a job is finished, the NetArchive suite is receiving the crawl data from the crawler instance and is transferring the generated files to the storage. Our archive files have a notation which you can see in the example job. Each file of a job starts with the job ID followed by a harvest definition ID. A timestamp and a file count and other metadata are also used. Each job usually has a metadata file which starts with only a job ID. This file contains crawl logs and statistics generated by Heritrix. We use this convention since the beginning of our web archiving project, and our whole workflow and post-processing relies on that. For the management of this entire workflow, we also have a metadata application in use, which also combines the different harvest definitions into crawls and where our reports and our legal communication will be handled. Here you can see that this metadata application is receiving the harvest definitions from the NetArchive suite, and in that example all 3 harvest definitions of our political crawls will be put together into our political collection. For every new archive file there will be CDX files created, which will be ingested into the Outback CDX server, which is used by the Open Wayback Machine. As you can see, these files also have the job ID and the harvest ID in their names. In the new planned workflow, we want to use the Browsertrix crawler in the Browsertrix cloud and use this crawler for websites in our daily crawls which no longer produce good results with Heritrix. For these websites, crawl configurations will be created and managed within the Browsertrix cloud application. A crawl of this configuration is then started via our web archive administration through the Browsertrix API by calling the Run Now post request. In response, we get a crawl ID. With this ID, we can check the state of the crawl, and as soon as the crawl is finished, we get access to the generated crawl data. By calling the get crawl request, we are receiving all information of that crawl. Under resources, we can download a WAC set file by using the provided path information. A WAC set file is a zip file that stores all crawl data under a certain path structure. Now we can see several folders inside this WAC set file. Under archive, we have all WAC files. Then there are folders with generated indexes, with log files and other files. Now we have the results of a crawl with very good quality. How do we get this into our workflows now? We will create our own archive files with the notation which is used in the NetArchive suite. The result files should look like as they would have been generated by the NetArchive suite. For this we need, as you know, a job ID and a harvest definition ID. Therefore, we are creating a dummy harvest definition for Browsertrix in the NetArchive suite. This harvest definition is then added to our collection in our metadata application. In the NetArchive suite, there is no API, so you need to do this by modifying the NetArchive suite database. This harvest definition is now prerequisite for a dummy job, which we need to create for each Browsertrix crawl in the NetArchive suite. By doing this, we receive a unique job ID from the NetArchive suite, which will not be assigned later for crawls within the NetArchive suite. With these 2 pieces of information, we can now create the names of the archive files in which we put the content of the previously received data from Browsertrix. All records from the WAC files in the archive directory will be moved into a WAC file named according to our required notation. We also create a metadata WAC file for this job ID and put metadata information from the Browsertrix WAC-set file like crawl logs into this file. The new generated archive files can now be sent to the storage and will be part of the whole workflow. Now these files will be recognized in our system as valid archive files and will be used for following post-processings in all our workflows. Our use case may not be suitable for all institutions, but it could work for us, because on the one hand we don't have too many daily crawls, so we don't need to scale up very high right now, and on the other hand this can be done very quick, so that we can improve our crawls very soon. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions or feedback, please get in touch with us. Thank you.